In the year 2031, it looks like for every 26 civil engineering openings in the United States, we'll have about 10 civil engineers here to fill those roles. I'm seeing this trend where I'm one of the youngest people on my project, and I'm kind of looking behind me, looking for younger engineers to start filling in the places that I was from an entry role. And I could talk to my management about this, and they tell me we are having a very hard time trying to bring on young engineers. When I first started doing structural engineering, I was in South Florida, and the week before my first day, the Surfside building had collapsed in Miami.
Oof.
So terrible event. Yeah. And I'm boots on the ground, my first day there, and they have me out on a construction site doing concrete rebar inspections with the senior engineer at the time. And then we hop in the truck, we go over to an apartment condo, we do a 40-year inspection. We're there till about noon. Then I'm back in the office and I'm doing like onboarding for structural design. And I did this for about 2 years, that schedule of just being in the field in the morning, back in the office until late at night doing design. And it burns a lot of people out. And I saw a lot of really smart, talented engineers just couldn't hold on to that schedule, couldn't hold on to that lifestyle. And we lost them. They go work at a bank, or they go work at a hedge fund, or they work for a developer now. And I'm seeing these really smart people that we can't keep into our fields. And I'm really focused on having a conversation on ways to keep them here, because I think it's very important for the future of our industry. I'm asking myself, okay, is this a local problem that I'm seeing, or is this something that's more global, more macro? So I tried to find as much data on the supply and demand of civil structural engineers in the United States. ASCE 7, ASCE in general has really good data on this. U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics has some pretty decent data on this. Yeah. Looking at some college data as well, graduates coming out. I put together a study and a graph trying to see what the supply and demand has been for civil structural engineering for about 30 years now. The one caveat on this study, it's hard to get retirement data. So it's hard to know exactly who leaves and when they leave. I know there's a lot of professional engineers that have an active license, but they don't typically practice if they're in their older ages. So it's very hard to see what the exact number is. Yeah. But when I was putting this together, what I found very interesting was from the years 2000 to 2012, supply demand is like lock in step. They're really just keeping pace with each other. They don't fall out of deviance by more than like 0.1%. They're very, very close. Around the 2011, 2012 timeframe, though, we see the demand continuing to increase, but the supply of civil engineers starts to taper off. And if you were to go now and keep the same growth percentage, the cumulative percentage year over year of who comes into the industry from 2012 to the study was till 2023, if you keep that same percentage, you see this stagnation in the civil engineering workforce here in the States. And again, supply keeps growing exponentially. So I saw that and I was like, okay, maybe my data is bad. So I posted it on LinkedIn and I was like, please vet my information. If you can find something better and you could figure out a better way to articulate this point that I'm trying to articulate, I'm all ears. That posted really well. It seemed like it really struck a nerve. And I haven't heard any feedback or anything to the contrary where people are not seeing this.
Current solve on that. Like how are we currently solving the issue?
I think people first look for money. I think that's always the easy solution is saying, hey, if we throw money at these people, hopefully they'll stay. And I think that's for a multitude of factors, not just because civil engineering is hard, but I think the world right now in general, it's expensive and people need to survive and I understand that. When I was going back to my study and I started to ask myself, why am I seeing the data that I'm seeing? And particularly this 2011, 2012 timeframe where you get this you could see a noticeable taper in the data. And for me, at that time period, you have a new form of engineering which is coming to life, which is computer science. And this new computer tech age where kids can go to college and they can get a job with Meta or Google or Apple, and they can make very good amounts of money working for these companies. So if you're looking at like the neural capacity of engineering in the United States, that now takes a portion of that capacity. On top of that, you have new ways for people to provide for themselves. They could be influencers on YouTube. They could do a podcast. They could do other things of that nature. And I think what we need to do better as an industry is we need to persuade people. We need to tell our story. We need to show people that civil engineering isn't just necessary, so you should do it. It is, of course, necessary for our society, but at the same time, we should show people the value, the joy that we bring to not only society, but to our lives as engineers and how much meaning it brings to my life specifically. But I know for many other engineers, it brings a lot of meaning to their life as well. When you talk about civil engineering and you compare it to a tech job, we get moderate pay, but we take on high amounts of risk. We have to sign and steal our drawings. We do that for buildings, for tunnels, for bridges, for everything. So right now I'm looking at an environment, a marketplace where our profession has moderate pay but high risk. And like I was saying before, the solution seems to be let's raise the monetary side of this, and that'll make everything all right. I think that's only one part of the solution, and I don't think it's very effective. Everyone wants to sit here and slam on the table and say, give me more money. And I would say, get in line. We all want more money at some point, right? So it's not really a very good way to make real lasting change, in my opinion. And I think the best way to handle it is look at it from a risk perspective. And I think if there's a way that we're never going to be able to totally reduce the risk, but if we can moderate the risk and make it less of a burden on these firms, make it less of a burden on these engineers, one, it creates better margins on your projects. So your firm's actually becoming more profitable if you're making less mistakes, or you're doing things more efficiently, or if you're just reducing the overall risk of the project that you have, you're not spending as much man hours doing the same thing that you were doing in the past.
Yeah.
That in turn will lead hopefully to engineers getting paid a little bit more. But then I think a problem we have is like an industry, if we want to talk about AEC, is it's an investment at the end of the day. And a lot of people lose sight of that, at least from the real estate development side that I had a lot of interaction with. My project at Bechtel was more of a defense space job, so it's not the same market structure. But I think we need to realize that our projects are investments, the same way that tech startups and SaaS companies are investments. And we live in a world now where we need to compete with those investments. So we really have to do a better job creating products that are better for investors, and we will get more money, I believe, in return for that if we could figure out a way to do that, which is very hard. Not easy.